Welcome back, fight fans. We're back, episode 65, talking about UFC Vegas 65. Look at how that worked out. Amazing. So, but before we get to that, of course, we've got to talk about the pay-per-view and what a fucking card it was. I mean, I say that all the time. I say that all the time on, well, mostly my bonuses, but seriously, this card, I mean, that's going to go down as one of the best cards. I mean, really, it was just amazing all the way through. Pretty much every fight, honestly, was pretty good. And I mean, how many first round finishes were there? I believe it was it six or something? Six or seven? Seven, I think. I don't know. But there were a lot of finishes. There were a lot of finishes, a lot of early finishes, a lot of amazing performances. Maybe not necessarily by our picks, but they were amazing performances nonetheless. And then, of course, that main card, every fight on that main card was just something else, especially those last three. Just absolutely incredible. So we'll break those down, of course, and we'll get into that right away. So we'll start with the first one. That was Carlos Ulberg, Nikolai Negumereanu, and of course, Ulberg teammate, the city kickboxing crew there. That would be Riddell. Well, Kai Car France is there too, but he wasn't fighting, of course. But on this card, Riddell, Ulberg, Izzy, and Hooker, of course. So amazing, amazing team. And all four of them were fighting tonight. And Kai Car France was in the crowd, which we saw. But anyway, Carlos Ulberg, pretty slow to start a little bit. Then Nick started getting a little frustrated, waving Ulberg forward, come at me, bro, that kind of thing. But that backfired immediately. I don't know why you would do that to somebody who is an amazing striker, like powerful, powerful striker. Because then he started to land these leg kicks that were just absolutely destroying Negumereanu's leg and landing a bunch of counters every time that Nick would walk in. As I said, destroyed his leg early. And then between all the bouncing around, because Ulberg was using a lot of movement there, between all that, he basically just landed a crisp one and put him out cold. It wasn't even close. Just knocked him out cold, put him to sleep, and he couldn't get up for quite a while. So, yeah, there's some real power there. And, I feel kind of bad, actually, because I think, and like they said on the broadcast, too, and I think he actually mentioned it himself, there was, his first UFC fight, that was, I believe, against Zachuku, who we're actually going to see tonight. Wasn't really, he didn't look that good. He just actually looked pretty bad. So I was kind of like, and that's kind of what I wouldn't really say I've been judging him ever since, but it's kind of like, it showed a lot of really bad holes. But ever since then, he's been absolutely amazing. So I think it was kind of just that one time thing where it just wasn't a good night. Maybe wasn't prepared properly for that. Maybe there were some other things going on. Who knows? But that was just that one fight. Ever since, I mean, he's been amazing. And this just kind of showed it. I mean, Negumereanu, a lot of people were thinking he was pretty good. I'll admit, I watched the tape on him before this, and that kind of sealed the deal for me that Ulberg was going to get a pretty easy knockout here, because Negumereanu just kind of walks forward and gets hit a lot, which you obviously can't do against somebody like Ulberg. So this wasn't really a surprise to me at all. But it does show you that he is a lot better than, well, I was giving him credit for before. So I feel a little bit bad about that, but here we are. I didn't doubt him going into this week at all. I even put money on the first round KO for him. So, fully expected here, and definitely lived up to that expectation. Amazing. Yeah, and as for 205, I mean, we've said this over and over again. He's at 205, and that's kind of the worst division. It's the least dense division that's in the UFC, except for maybe, I don't know, like middleweight isn't necessarily all that great. welterweight. It's not welterweight's actually getting a lot better now. But yeah, 205 is clearly the division that's struggling to get anything going the most. So in that kind of division, he's got a pretty good chance. He's got a pretty good chance, especially with that team. I mean, City Kickboxing is incredible. So if he can get that going and continue that momentum, keep learning, keep moving forward, and keep that commitment going too, definitely somebody to look out for sure. Second fight, this was kind of the one of the ones where it was like, okay, this wasn't, necessarily the highlight of the night, that's for sure. Montel Jackson, Julio Arce. I wasn't really sure who to pick going into this. I did give it to Arce because on paper he maybe looked a little bit better, but honestly, this one was I couldn't tell going into this one. It was dead even. I should have gone with Jackson though. I should have known. But anyway, Jackson made the first move, pushed Arce into the fence. A little slow, so there was a lot of boos going on early. I mean, especially after that Ulberg performance, they're expecting a lot of action after that. It just sets the tone for the night. And Montel Jackson and Julio Arce kind of got they got the boos from that. Just, you start the night here, then you kind of go down a little bit, you're going to get booed quite a bit. And yeah, it was pretty slow there. Jackson was literally just kind of holding him against the fence, ended up getting split up by the ref. Arce ended up getting a takedown at the end of the round. So, not a whole lot going on and really just control time for both of them, except for Arce did get a takedown instead of just the control time along the fence. So, the commentators, I forget who was talking at that point. It was probably Cormier and who else was there? Rogan and somebody else. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember who was on the broadcast team. It had to have been Anik. Anyway, they were kind of saying, because of that takedown, maybe it did get him the round. I wasn't really sure. I mean, nobody could really be sure at that point because it's such a dead even round. Who knows how judges are going to score something like that, especially with no real damage on either side. I what did I say here? Yeah, because Jackson never got a takedown or really did much damage, but he did control most of the round on the feet, against the fence. But then on the other side, Arce, he landed the quick takedown at the end of the round, but then never really did anything with it either. So, that's impossible to score. I, I gave it to Jackson because of control time. He seemed to be the one leading the action, so I gave it to him. But honestly, anything's on the table for that one. Second round, Arce was the one walking forward. He set the pace. Neither guy really landed a whole lot this round, or at least to start either. Then Jackson's kind of started to land his jabs. Arce was still pressuring forward. Then Jackson switched over to the grappling again. Still couldn't get him down to the ground, though. This one, I mean, for sure, because of the output, had to be Jackson. But again, not really a whole lot going on. It was kind of just really Arce not doing a whole lot in return. That's kind of what the scoring came down to at that point. So to me, it was already up 2-0 for Jackson. Third round, Arce really pushed it. I mean, he knew he was down on the cards, or that at the very least it was tied. So he had to get something going. Sadly, you run in there. That's the chance you take. And then got dropped by a jab from Jackson. From his back, though, Arce actually started to throw out some pretty crazy submission attempts. I actually thought he was going to be able to steal it back. I was getting excited there. Didn't end up getting it, though. They went back to their feet. And then it was, a little bit of back and forth there, But I mean, because of the knockdown, had to be Jackson for that last round. So for me, it was a 30-27, but I could have seen 29-28 for sure. And that's exactly what we saw, 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28 for Jackson on that one. And again, not really Not really an impressive statement by either guy in that one. That was just kind of a filler fight, really. I mean, it wasn't not really a whole lot going on that one. The next fight after that, though, the excitement was brought back. That was Mike Trizano, Sung Woo Choi. That was the whoa, was that the first round finish? Well, this was the second first round finish of the night. So already, 2 in 3 fights, amazing. Yeah, one of the craziest starts I've ever seen, as we saw a rare double knockdown. Wasn't a double knockout. We didn't get anything that crazy, but a double knockdown. I have never seen that live when I'm watching it. That was the first I've seen it, in video, small videos here and there, but I've never actually watched it happen on TV live. Crazy to see. They both landed a hook. They both fell back. Amazing. You love to see that. It's crazy to see. Seemed like Choi was the one landing better for a bit, but then Trizano dropped him twice, and then he really started to pull away with it from there. Choi started to get a little crazy, windmilling these huge punches forward, landed a couple of them, stumbled Trizano pretty bad actually, but then he started to slow down, and then that eventually ended up giving Trizano the chance to land an absolute bomb, and that was it. He swarmed him on the ground. Ref was forced to stop it, and that was it. I mean, it was one hell of a fight, that's for sure. That was my fight of the night for a little while, that's for sure. And then, of course, we all knew who was going to end up winning fight of the night. Uh, Even before the fight started, we knew it was going to be Chandler and Poirier. But this one was definitely in the lead up until then, that's for sure. Then we had Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Silvana Gomez Juarez, two very long names. I wasn't really sure, again, what to expect in this because we saw Kowalkiewicz. She lost, it was either 4 or 5 in a row going into her last one. And I mean, they kind of gave her a pretty easy matchup, really. I mean, pretty much the easiest matchup she could get in Felice Herrig, the last one. So, I mean, with Silvana Gomez Juarez on a win streak and then the finishes that she's been getting, I kind of thought she was going to take the win, but I knew it was going to be super close. But yeah, Gomez seemed to be doing better on the feet, which is exactly what we were, you would expect in this kind of matchup. But Karolina was walking forward and then dragged her down to the ground, which again, probably not too unexpected there. Took her back multiple times, smothered her, deep submission attempts. Really just smothered her the whole round. Clearly won the round on the ground for Kowalkiewicz. So that was a pretty obvious first round. Second round, Gomez wasn't really getting any offense going at all. Karolina was all over her, even on the feet, which, to be honest, I didn't expect that at all. Especially if you watch the tape, that was definitely a surprise. She started to land more as the round went on, but Karolina probably won the second round too with the extra early output. It was really close though, and actually, I mean, this is where we had this whole fiasco with the scorecards in the octagon, where the the guy from the commission like started scribbling all over the scorecards against the cage. I mean, not something you want to see, especially as a bettor. You're like, oh, I'm about to get screwed. And I was. No, I wouldn't really say anybody was screwed. It was a pretty clear decision in the end. But anyway, this is, if you did look at the scorecards, though, this is one that the judges were actually split on. So the first round, it was, obviously Kowalkiewicz. So see, she clearly won the first round there. But the last 2 rounds actually were flipped on a couple of different cards. But yeah, I had this one for Kowalkiewicz, the second. Third round, Karolina was the one pushing forward, as always. It's just what she was doing the whole fight. Doing well with her jabs, but then Gomez really started to land the heavier shots. Looked like Gomez was winning the round actually pretty clearly. Then Karolina got her down to the ground. She couldn't do anything with it though, and then eventually went back to their feet right away. I mean, I think pretty clearly that round did go towards Gomez Juarez. So, I mean, I think it was a pretty clear 29-28. And I'm not really sure how you could have scored that the other way, the third round. But one of the judges did. They had it for Kowalkiewicz. But either way, we did end up with 29-28 on all three cards, even though the last two rounds were flipped on a couple of different cards. Still ended up with 29-28, which is interesting because that is how I scored it. But a couple of the judges got there a different way, which is interesting that we didn't end up with a split decision at that point. Because I thought, especially with that, all the scribbling and all that kind of shit, I mean, I thought we were going to get a split decision here, and we very well could have been. Actually, if you looked at the original cards, because they photocopied and showed what happened, what he was scribbling and all that, they actually did originally have it as a split decision, but then realized that they just added up the scores wrong, and it was actually 29-28 in favor of Kowalkiewicz. But it was the right winner the whole time. It's just they had originally had it as a split decision, then they flipped it to a unanimous decision because of the way they added up the scores. But they also did show, and I can confirm too, because I did look through the whole thing, they did end up getting the right thing. It was 29-28 on all three cards for Kowalkiewicz. So nobody got screwed there. Just a little bit of confusion. But I didn't find out about that until like a couple days after, because they didn't, even Dana White didn't know when they asked him in the conference. He's like, I forgot about that actually, because nobody had updated him about it at all. So yeah, anyway, so that's what all that was about. Then it was Matt Frevola, Ottman Azaitar, another first round finish. Surprisingly, not the way we expected. A lot of people, including myself, would have thought Azaitar was going to get it. He was undefeated, lots of finishes. Frevola on the opposite side, I mean, not doing well at all, getting finished quite a bit. So it seemed to make sense that Azaitar was going to get an early finish. That was not the case. It was the opposite. Frevola was aggressive, as always. I mean, he is usually the aggressor. Maybe a little bit wild and reckless, which is exactly what I thought, which is exactly why you'd imagine that Azaitar would have gotten the knockout, but not this time. Azaitar took a while to do anything at all, really. He just didn't look right. And that's actually what they said on the broadcast too. And then when they said that, I was like, yeah, you know what? He really doesn't look right. He does not. I don't know what happened, but he just did not get anything going at all. And I mean, it could have been because he was away for, I think it was like 2 years or something. He had a long layoff. So I just don't think he ever really got in any kind of rhythm whatsoever and paid the price, because then Frevola landed a bomb, knocked him out cold. He had no idea where he was when he woke up. So, I mean, that was, yeah, it was a weird one to see. Yeah, he just didn't look right. Did not look right. I mean, I don't think they're going to get rid of him at all. But it was weird to see. I don't think you're going to see a Zaitar fight. It's weird. It's very strange, especially when you watch his other fights. He didn't look like that at all. He looks way better than that normally. So yeah, it was weird to see. Fight number 6, Andre Petroski, Wellington Turman. I actually thought this was going to be an early finish for Petroski. Didn't turn out that way, but pretty clear win for Petroski though. First round, I mean, dead even on the feet, which is interesting because I thought Petroski was going to have a clear edge there. Then Petroski did actually start to land a lot harder. Interestingly, Petroski then went for the grappling, which was a little weird because he was having he had the clear advantage on the feet. So it was a little weird as to why he started doing the grappling. Because that was really Turman's only chance to get any kind of offense going is with grappling. So it's kind of weird that you were kind of giving him that. You were throwing it at him. But Petroski was actually controlling him pretty easily. So, I mean, obvious first round for Petroski. I mean, Turman never really got anything going at all. No offense really whatsoever. Second round, though, Turman locked in a pretty decent guillotine attempt after a Petroski takedown, which is why why are you taking him down like that? You know, you're putting yourself in that situation, giving Turman the chance. I just don't. I think that's more so an error in strategy. I don't know why he started doing that. I don't know if that was the plan going into it or what, but it was just weird. Like it just that's not the kind of strategy you should have against somebody who is basically a ground specialist, Turman. So it was definitely a strange strategy. Um, but again, Petrosky did find himself on top over and over again. After getting back up, it was then Petrosky, like I said, going for another takedown. And this time he was on the bottom. And that's the problem. Because then it was Turman leading the grappling. Then they switched around again. Petrosky leading on top. Pretty dead even, to be honest, on the cards. But again, that's kind of just an error in strategy, really, from Petrosky. Because if he would have just stayed on the feet or even along the fence or something, I mean, Petrosky's winning all day long. So that's really his kind of fault. Yeah, really weird. So to me, that could have actually gone either way. It was dead even for me on the cards. I didn't even score that round. So could have been tied, could have been Petrosky up 2-0. Who knows? Third round, though, Petrosky ran straight in, threw Turman to the mat, locked in one of the deepest guillotines I've ever seen. Seriously, that was a deep one. I thought, okay, well, he's getting the submission right here. There's no way. Somehow, Turman did actually get out of it. But then, of course, he was just smothered the rest of the round. Petrosky was just throwing him around the canvas, really. Pretty clear decision win for Petrosky. And you could have scored at 29-28 or 30-27. Really could have gone either way in that way. But yeah, pretty obvious win for Petrosky there. And he looked pretty good. But I mean, also, Turman not necessarily a top contender going into this fight. So I wouldn't really say this was all that impressive, really. I mean, it just kind of, it's exactly what, actually, I was going to say it was exactly what we expected. It was kind of worse than we expected, really. I mean, Petrosky didn't really get to do a whole lot. And, you know, he kind of lost that one round just based on his fight IQ alone. So, you know, I wasn't really all that impressed yet. He hasn't really impressed me at all yet in any of the fights yet, but he definitely has the potential. Fight number 7. I mean, it was a little weird, really. Oh, never mind. No, this was the one we expected. For some reason, I thought I was talking about the Miranda Maverick fight where she should have gotten a finish. No, this was absolute dominance. This was Erin Blanchfield, Molly McCann. I mean, this I will admit though, and I actually said this last time. I believed Molly in that, you know, she had the defense to kind of slow Blanchfield down a bit, but I think really this kind of just shows you how good Blanchfield actually is. I wouldn't even say that this is McCann being, you know, terrible on the ground. I honestly wouldn't say that. I really wouldn't say that at all. I would just say that Blanchfield is just that good. That's really all you're seeing because yeah, Molly couldn't get anything going, but guess what? That's because she was in a crucifix. A crucifix is it's probably the hardest position you can get into to even get somebody into that position. So the fact that Blanchfield actually methodically moved herself into that position and then managed to hold it, that's crazy. Like that is very, very impressive, especially against somebody like Molly McCann. So yeah. But I mean, really, at that point, it's like if you're stuck in the crucifix when it's that deep, because she had, you know, her legs fully wrapped around the left arm or the right arm, I guess. Yeah, the right arm, and then was fully controlling the left arm as well. So, like, there was no way McCann was getting out of that. So at that point, it's like the ref is going to stop this at any second. In fact, really, the ref could have stopped it at any point because she landed over 100 unanswered strikes on the ground from the crucifix position, just landing the left just like that. Bam, 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 bam. Over 100 in a row. So, I mean, you know, probably end the fight. I don't think she needed to take that kind of punishment. There was no way she was getting out of it. I'm sorry. And then instead just eventually went for Kimura instead and got it pretty easily. Yeah, I mean, McCann, again, all credit to her. And this, again, it really just shows you how good Blanchfield is, because McCann was not tapping to that Kimura at first. She was like, yeah, no, I'm not tapping to that. I mean, and Blanchfield talked about it after. It's like, you know that McCann is not going to tap to something like that. You've really got to get the leverage in there. And that's exactly what she did. So, all credit to McCann for staying in there that long, because the ref really could have called it with the unanswered strikes there. And, she could have easily just tapped to say, you know what, I'm definitely not winning this fight. But she didn't. She gave it everything she had. She stayed in there. And yeah, really all this shows you is that Blanchfield really is that good. And I've been saying it for a while too. I really do think that if she's not a future champ, she is guaranteed to be in the top 5 within the next couple of years. And she's what, like 24 years old or something like that. I mean, if she's 24 and doing this to like seriously top contenders, like the sky's the limit. Seriously, like she's going to be able to do some pretty crazy things 3-4 years from now. So yeah, I think she's going to be getting a title shot within the next couple of years. She's definitely getting somebody in the top 5, I would say, guaranteed in her next fight, because that was just unbelievable what she just did. So that was the first prelim that I talked about last time. The second prelim that I had talked about last time, what a disappointment. Wow. Yeah, I mean, just shocking, really. I mean, not shocking, really. It's just depressing, really, what it is. Dominic Reyes, Ryan Spann. I mean, I even said, I think I mentioned it going into this. It's like, one of two things was going to happen here. Either Reyes gets back on track, gets a first round KO, or we're seriously going to be seeing the end basically of Dominic Reyes, in that he's never going to recover and never going to get back to that place where he was at a couple of years ago against John Jones. Sadly, we saw the second part, pretty bad knockout again for Reyes. This one was actually, I would say, worse than the other two pretty clearly, just because it was his worst loss yet. It was the worst, his fastest knockout loss yet. Never really got anything going. It was just, yeah, Spann just landed, and that was pretty much it. It started to look bad right away. Yeah. Yeah, got put to sleep again in the first round this time. I mean, like Dana was, it seemed pretty clear that they were going to keep him around, if that's what he wanted, because they said it's all up to Reyes at this point, because if it was probably anybody else, they're getting cut after getting knocked out 3 times like that. But because you're talking about somebody who essentially beat John Jones a couple of years ago, they're kind of just thinking, hey, it's up to you. If you think you can get back into it and be that same kind of contender, then we're all for it. But if you decide, hey, listen, we're going to take a break, or maybe this isn't working out anymore, then that's up to you. But yeah, I just can't see him ever coming back from that. That's that's kind of the nail in the coffin right there. There's no way. I mean, I don't think I would ever pick him again unless he's going against somebody that's seriously, seriously not very good. Then I would be picking him. But I gotta say, like this was, yeah, really was just the nail in the coffin. Like this is about, that's it for him, really. I don't think I don't think he could ever come back into really anybody into the top 10. I just can't see that ever happening again, unless, you know, unless he gets a couple wins back, a couple of devastating wins himself, and then you kind of work your way up psychologically even to get back in there and do that. But Yeah, I just can't see it, and it's just so sad to see. That was depressing to watch, to be honest. Excuse me. And again, well, I mean, y- and Dana said it too. We're focusing a lot on Reyes, but that's of course because of his past. I mean, on the other side of it too, Spann looked really good, so you can't really say a whole lot about that either. I mean, Reyes, yes, he's probably done, but also you need to remember too, we also just saw Spann get a pretty incredible win. So he's obviously going to be doing something soon too, against another top contender as well. So, don't forget about Spann and all that. The final prelim that I talked about last time, and it was also the featured prelim, Renato Moicano, Brad Riddell. And this is actually I was a little surprised that it worked out the way I said. I even said I was pretty sure Moicano was going to get, if not a finish, a pretty dominant decision win just because of his ground game. Um, and even as I was saying that, I was like, I don't know. Like, am I being crazy here? Am I being crazy that Moicano is going to have like going to probably submit him? No, apparently I wasn't crazy because that was another first round finish, and that is exactly what happened. Both of them throwing pretty wild early. Surprisingly, though, it actually looked like Moicano was the one getting the better of the striking. It really did. He actually looked to be the better striker in this case, which blew me away because Riddell is, I mean, city kickboxing. He's a striker. He also was striking with Fiziev for 3 rounds straight. So, I mean, he's clearly a very good striker. So I was pretty impressed by that part of it alone. And then after a few minutes, they hit the ground. And then, of course, as we all expected, then it was Moicano taking control from there. That was really my main concern going into it is can he actually get Riddell down to the ground? Because if he could do that, then I figured he was going to win pretty easily, or at least dominate him on the cards on the ground because I knew that was going to happen, but I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get the fight there. And as like I said, he did right there a few minutes into that first round. And then that was it. He took Riddell's back, locked in the rear naked choke. That was it. Couldn't defend it at all. Actually, probably some of the worst defense I've ever seen because he had it fully locked in and Riddell had both of his hands on the canvas, just basically waiting for him to either gas his arms out or choke him out. That was it. He was literally just like, like, don't submit me. That's kind of what was going on there. So yeah, I mean, lost, obviously got submitted there. And really, I think people need to take Moicano more seriously. I can't really believe the disrespect he's getting. Cause it's like people didn't even watch that fight against RDA. Cause RDA, I mean, he's also like, if not top 5, definitely top 10. So, I mean, the fact that he actually held on to him on really short notice, by the way, literally like 5 days notice, came in there 5 rounds, survived all 5 rounds, and actually did some good grappling against RDA too in that time. So I mean, he's the real deal, and he didn't get knocked out by RDA either, by the way, who is also pretty solid on the feet. So I mean, I was super impressed by that. I just can't believe people aren't taking him seriously. Now, though, I think people are going to start taking him a lot more seriously because this is exactly the Moicano that I expected to see. I just didn't expect him to get it in the first round. So it's even better than I expected, really. But yeah, Renato Moicano, he is the real deal. He will be getting a ranked opponent, a higher ranked opponent, I should say, because I think Riddell was ranked going into this. I can't remember. Well, maybe not, but he will be getting somebody probably even in the top 10 in his next fight because that was seriously impressive. Main card now. And this is when it started to get real crazy. It was Dan Hooker, Claudio Puelles. And wow, do I feel stupid picking Puelles now. And you know what? I was 50-50 on it. But man, did I look stupid in that one. I did. He never really did any of this before. And it's kind of like It's actually exactly the same as me picking Paul Craig now. That's how I feel, because that's exactly what he did. He just pulled guard constantly, like literally lying on his back, rolling, lying on his back, got hit, lied on his back, went for a takedown, and then rolled on his back. Like he literally, that's all he was doing. He wasn't landing any offense, wasn't getting anything going, and he just kept doing that. That's it. He didn't even try to mask the takedowns. He didn't even try and strike. Literally just went for takedowns, which they call a naked takedown because there's nothing hiding it. There's no lead up. There's no combos. There's no jabs leading up to it. There's no feints. There's nothing. Just literally naked takedown attempt. And he just did that over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and then pulled guard over and over and over and over. And then Dan Hooker would just, let him stand up again, whoop his ass for another 20 seconds, and then he would go do it again. And it was just that over and over and over again. So yeah, never taking Puelles again, and he will probably get cut pretty soon if he keeps fighting like that, because it's just not a strategy that works. It is not. And we've seen that over and over again. It just doesn't work. Paul Craig has done the exact same thing. And once people figure out what you're doing, that's it. That's it. They just let you stand up, say, I'm not going down there. And then they make you stand up. They land a couple combos to drop you. You fall down. They make you stand back up. And then over and over again, that's how you get, then you get a 10-8 on the cards or something like that. Your fight's already over unless you actually get a submission. But yeah, Paul Craig was doing it. Ryan Hall is doing it, obviously, his whole career. And now Puelles also doing it. And it just doesn't work. It's just not a sustainable strategy, especially in the top 15. You're never going to be successful against somebody in the top 15 when you're doing shit like that. It just doesn't work. Unless, of course, you catch them somehow. But if they've been training at all for that, it's like, it's pretty hard to get caught in something like in something like that when you just stick to the game plan and say, no, I am never going down to the ground. We are only staying on the feet. And that is the entire game plan. And you will win pretty much every single time because they have no striking. And that's what kept happening. So, yeah. So never picking him again. Easy win for Hooker. It was just not even close. And again, now I feel silly for picking him because I thought he was way better and way more well-rounded than that. To be fair, though, he did actually lock in a knee bar at one point. He was getting close to locking in the knee bar, I should say. It was close, but still. If you've got anybody with any submission defense, you're screwed. And that's exactly what happened here. Fight number 11. Gutierrez and Frankie Edgar. Oh my God. I knew going into this. I even specifically said this. He's been knocked out by guys with kicks in the last 2 fights. He got knocked out by a flying knee by Sandhagen. Then he was knocked out by a kick by Cheeto. This guy likes to throw flying knees and kicks. We knew that going into it. We knew that he's gotten finishes like that before. So I even straight up said, it's exactly the same matchup that we just saw him get knocked out in the first round for the other 2. So I put down first round KO, probably by knees or some kind of kick or something. And that's literally exactly what we saw. He got the flying knee pretty much right away, and that was it. And I kind of agree and disagree with, I'm on both sides of the fence with what everybody keeps saying. Is it's like, you don't really want to give somebody like that. It's his last fight. He said it was his last fight. Don't give him somebody that will knock him out in the first round. Because, again, saw that coming a mile away. There was no surprise there. Just kind of an inevitability, to be honest. That's what I figured it was. It was either going to be a first or a second round knockout. are just a wildly dominant striking display for 3 rounds from Gutierrez. But, give him a fight that he can win in his last fight, especially a legend like that, especially when it's going to be his last fight because he said it. Give him somebody that he can actually compete against, not somebody that has probably a 90% chance of getting a knockout. It seems kind of disrespectful at that point. So I wasn't really a whole fan of that matchup in that case, but and no surprises though. It's just depressing to watch, honestly. Similar to, like I said, similar to what happened with Dominic Reyes in that point. I mean, we didn't know that was going to happen to Dominic Reyes for sure, but it definitely seemed like a distinct possibility that he was going to get knocked out like that. So, it's just unfortunate to see, really. But this was worse, though, of course, because we knew for sure Frankie was losing this fight. I'm sorry, but if you had it the other way, I don't know what you've been watching the last couple of fights for both of them. I don't know what you've been watching, but it was pretty obvious he was going to lose that. Then we had the first of the big three, the three of honestly the best fights we've seen all year, or at least for sure the matchups anyway, or performances, I should say. 3 of the best performances in fights we've seen all year, seriously. And it started with the fight of the night, which again, we already knew going into this week, this was going to be the fight of the night. Absolutely no doubt. I said it last week too. I'm pretty sure anyway. If I didn't, I should have said it. Chandler and Poirier, because I was thinking it for sure. Chandler, Poirier, that's got fight of the night written all over it. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, you could watch, I mean, seriously, I could watch Chandler fight every single day. I really could. I mean, it is absolutely insane to watch that man. And he is, without a doubt, especially after this week, Michael fucking Chandler, my number one favorite fighter. He really is. It does not get better than Michael Chandler because that is what I like. The reason you want to watch fighting is because of people like that who don't give a shit. They will give 100% no matter what and walk forward into the fire, give it everything they have, trying to get a finish every second of the fight. That is what I want to see from every single fighter. That is what I want to see. And listen, I'm not talking about stand-up fighting, whatever, you could be, you sure, of course, striking is more exciting, I would say, probably in that kind of terms. But listen, if you're going to go out there like Chimaev and his takedowns and submissions like that, he goes right for it right away, 100%. No slowing down, just 100% gunning for the finish right away with the grappling too. So it can be done on the feet and on the ground. I'm not saying one or the other. It's just that intensity. That is what I want to see 24/7, like every single fight. That is what needs to happen. Anyway, so that's just a long-winded way of saying Michael Chandler is my favorite fighter now. Also, he's just a pretty interesting guy to listen to. He's a really cerebral kind of guy. He talks a lot. He's really motivational, but in a good way. It's not like a hokey motivational. It's like, oh, like those are things that I think too. He's a really smart guy in that kind of way and really inspiring too. Anyway, enough about Michael Chandler specifically. We'll get back into the fight here. Chandler was actually doing some pretty great work. I mean, he was winning for quite a while here. Chandler was getting some pretty great work done early, slammed some combos into Dustin. Dustin was getting clipped early, really. But as the round went on, Poirier did start to land some crisp jabs. But then Chandler came back in and landed some bombs, then dragged Poirier to the ground, actually, which I kind of thought that was going to be happening because we know, Poirier obviously is more so a striker than anything else. And of course, Chandler has that NCAA wrestling background. So we knew that he was really going to be really, really good on the ground. But Then everything exploded as Poirier started to land bombs of his own, wobbled Chandler pretty bad, landed combo after combo. Um, and like I said, it looked like Chandler was clearly winning up until that point. But with that late onslaught from Poirier, almost getting finished, personally, I had to score the first round for Poirier because of that late onslaught there, where he really did almost get a finish there. So first round, I had to give it to Poirier because of that. But it was definitely Chandler up until that point. Second round, Chandler did not want to play around on the feet early, of course. Slammed Dustin into the canvas at the start of the round. Chandler was controlling him quite a bit. But oh yeah, right. He was controlling him pretty easily, but or not easily, let's say, but he was pretty shredded apart and pretty bloody because of all that early damage, and he was bleeding all over the place. It was disgusting. But yeah, exactly what we expected though. Then Chandler took his back, locked in some submission attempts, smothered him, and I mean, man, he was so close to getting the finish. I was like, yes, Chandler, you can do it. Cash in that check, cash in the underdog check for us. He was so close, but did not get the finish there. That being said, dominant round for Michael Chandler to the point where I scored it a 10-8 because it was not close that round. That was not even remotely close. He dominated him that round to the point where, yeah, I gave him a 10-8 on the cards there. So I actually had him ahead, which would be 19-18, I guess. That's how I had it after two. Third round, looking like Chandler was going to find himself on top again, but somehow Poirier managed to take his back and locked in a submission. But to be honest, it was really weird. It was a really weird finish for me. And I mean, Chandler said that too. I mean, he was shocked as well that he managed to submit him. But I think, honestly, it was just because he wasn't taking him seriously. I don't think he would see it that way. But when you watch it happen, that's exactly what was happening. Because what happened was Dustin was already on his back and Chandler wasn't even protecting his neck at all. It was kind of like he wasn't taking him seriously. He just wanted to probably reverse positions because he was, like this in that position on his back with Poirier on his back behind him. So I think what he was trying to do was then, not defend his neck, but then turn around so he could land on top himself. Instead, again, didn't defend the neck, so Poirier just grabbed it. And then he kind of, he was fighting a little bit from there, obviously trying to get the arms off, but it was too late. He already had it locked in. And it was because he wasn't defending it. He just wasn't defending the neck at all. So, I mean, I thought it was kind of a weird way to end. I mean, yeah, if he would have just been defending there, he probably would have won the fight. So, yeah, a strange end to that. A very strange end to that fight. There's nothing really else to say about that. It was just a weird end where I don't think anybody saw that one coming, and for a good reason. It shouldn't have happened, really. If Chandler was defending properly, wouldn't have happened. So yeah, which is weird for him because again, he's very good on the ground. So it was just a bizarre thing that happened that he got submitted like that. I don't know. It was just weird. And if you watch, I mean, maybe people are saying, oh, you're biased because you like Chandler so much. No, watch it back and you'll see exactly what I mean. He was literally up like this, wasn't even defending his neck at all for quite a while, actually, by the way, 5-10 seconds or so. He wasn't defending it at all. And then Poirier noticed it, just slipped his arm around, and that was it. So, yeah, it was just a bizarre kind of lapse in strategy there, which doesn't normally happen to Chandler. He normally gets that kind of thing right away. So, yeah, it was a little weird. And I know nobody else. I don't think I heard anybody else say that. But seriously, if you watch the last minute of the fight or so, you'll see it too, and you'll be like, oh, that's that's actually really weird that that happened like that. Anyway, co-main event, Zhang Weili. I mean, no surprises whatsoever in here. I mean, really the only surprise actually that it didn't finish in the first round because I mean, yeah, she's exactly as good as everybody. I mean, probably better than a lot of people think. Exactly as good as we thought though. I mean, she is just seriously unbelievably good. And I truly believe this. I think she really is actually the most dangerous finisher out of the women, period, except for probably Amanda Nunes. I mean, I think that's kind of the pinnacle. But just below that, I'm not even kidding. I honestly do think that Weili is probably the most dangerous finisher because even Valentina, even Shevchenko, she's not like this where she can get finishes on champion, other people that are, you know, she doesn't get finishes that easily. Like she's not getting first or second round finishes constantly. She's getting, dominant decision wins, or she's getting, late finishes, like third, fourth round finishes. That's kind of where she's getting finishes. She's not getting first, second round finishes that are literally putting people unconscious, submitting people, and knocking people out. Like Zhang Weili can do any of that, anything she can do. So yeah. By the way, this I would say favorite female fighter because that is crazy. That is crazy that she can do stuff like that. Also, she's just really nice. She's nice to everybody. She's kind of funny too. Yeah, just an all around amazing person, and then even more amazing athlete, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, just absolute dominance from start to finish. There's nothing really to say. I mean, the first round, uh, threatened multiple submissions from Esparza's back. I mean, absolutely destroying her with ground and pound and combos and all that for the whole first round. The second round continued the same way. They rolled around a lot on the ground, and then Weili got in this weird situation, this weird submission situation position. And then because she's just such a ridiculous athlete, just finished it from there, which I don't think anybody else could really have finished anything from that position. So again, wildly impressive. What was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say about that. I can't remember. Oh yeah, that it's like she even openly said, she was like, I actually look at what my opponent is doing and then actually fight their style. And I'm like, that's psychotic. Who does that? No, but seriously though, like nobody does that. Usually you fight your opponent's style. Like you do, you you see your opponent's style, you find the holes in their game and then take advantage of those holes. But that's not what she's doing at all. She's looking at their style and say, I can do that too, but I can do it better than you. That's what she's doing, which is crazy. That's like that is some psycho shit. Like nobody does that. Nobody does that ever. I've never heard of any other fighter, man or woman, who has ever said that or done anything like that at all. And it's pretty noticeable when people do it too, because I noticed it after she said it. I was like, yeah, no, I can definitely see that because she was striking with Joanna, knocked her out. She was, about 50-50 with Rose doing because Rose is 50-50. She does a bit of both. So Weili did a little bit of both. Esparza only goes on the ground, really. So she went on the ground. She could have probably knocked out Esparza pretty easily, but she decided not to. She wanted to go for the ground game instead because that's just what she does, which is, again, crazy. You don't do that. Nobody does that. That is the exact opposite of what you should be doing, but she's so good and she's such an insane athlete that she can do that, which is insane. So, yeah, obviously very impressed by that. To me, my favorite female fighter, I think. Main event. What I mean, this is straight out of a movie, this fight. I mean, I don't need to even do the lead up, obviously. And we all know what happened anyway. But we'll go, just break down the fight round by round here slowly. Or quickly, I should say. Slow kickboxing match to start, as expected. I mean, we knew neither guy was going to be doing a whole lot early because they knew each other so well. Um, and there was a lot of power and a lot of striking early, that would be coming back at them. So we knew it was going to be a little slow to start, probably. Excuse me. It was close, but Izzy was the one landing cleaner early, which I think, again, we kind of expected. He's faster. He's got the style, the combos. He's got that elusive kind of style. So we knew that he was probably going to be landing more, which is why most people took him to win by decision, which is exactly what I had too. Then the grappling started with Izzy clinching along the fence, but as expected, the size of Pereira was a problem. and I actually even said that too. I was like, I would be surprised if Izzy didn't grapple in this because it just seems like something that he should be doing in this kind of matchup. And that is exactly what he did. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised by that at all. A lot of people were. I don't know what you guys were paying attention to. I mean, like, that seemed like a pretty good game plan going in, considering we've never really seen Pereira grapple much at all. And Izzy's a champ, he can do that kind of thing. He can do everything. He may be a kickboxer. He used to be a kickboxer, but he is a full MMA athlete, and he's probably one of the smartest fighters in the entire UFC. So it just seemed pretty obvious that he was going to be throwing some grappling in there. But like I said, the size I figured was going to be a pretty significant issue, especially when I saw them standing next to each other. It was like, oh yeah, okay, grappling, huge problem here. There's going to be a problem, the size. But yeah, just as it looked like the round had closed, Izzy blew the roof off the place, almost knocked Pereira down, wobbled him pretty bad actually, and he wobbled all the way back to his stool. So, I mean, seriously, if that round, no joke, if the first round, if he did that 20 seconds earlier, first round KO Izzy, guaranteed, because that was as close to being knocked out as we've seen Pereira the entire time. Like, that was crazy that he got through that. And the fact that he recovered too. I mean, the toughness and the mindset of Pereira cannot be overstated. I genuinely don't like there's not too many people that I've ever seen in any sport really that have that kind of mindset where it's like, you're not going to beat me, you know? Like he was in, like he was not going to let Izzy do anything. Like he was not going to let him beat him at all. He was going to do 100% at all times. He was going to try and go for the finish at all times, and he was not going to take no for an answer. That's just who he is, which is not common, not as common as you would think. Even though they talk the talk, he was walking the walk. Anyway, second round, close to start again. Pereira landed a couple of good ones, forced Izzy to back into the fence. Still having a problem with the size of Alex. Or Alex, I should say. That is apparently how you pronounce his name. So, it was like already you're still seeing size problems here. The rest of the round, mostly Pereira with some crisp shots and Izzy pushing for grappling, but then, of course, getting shut down because of the size. Then Pereira said he could grapple too, and he actually did get a takedown at the end of the round, evening the score for sure 1-1. And I think that was pretty obvious. Everybody had it. I would say pretty much everybody had it 3-1 going into the final round. So yeah, this was 1-1 after 2. And I think everybody kind of had that. I mean, it was pretty clear. And again, wasn't really surprised by that either. I mean, yeah, Adesanya doesn't really get taken down a whole lot, but he also doesn't fight people that are this big. And we saw that when he fought Jan too. Because honestly, I would say Jan is probably the same size as Pereira, which is crazy. But that's just how big Pereira actually is. He's usually like 220, 230. Like that's probably what about Jan is too. He's probably also 220, 230. So they're basically the same size. So I mean, it wasn't a surprise to me that the grappling was going towards Pereira. He's just that much bigger. He's crazy big. Anyway, so yeah, 1-1. Third round, Pereira opened hard this time, landed some good shots, attacking the body of Izzy this time. Pereira then started to shoot for takedowns, but Izzy actually turned the table on this one, grabbing the first takedown of his UFC career. Yeah, that's right. He's fought how many fights in the UFC? This was his first takedown in the UFC. Amazing. So yeah, but anyway, Pereira defended well, somehow struggling to get back up though, or somewhat struggling to get back up. I was a little surprised by that actually, because again, Pereira is so big that I just didn't think Izzy would be able to hold him down, which eventually he couldn't, but still. Um, Eventually, Izzy found himself on top, though, landing a lot of ground and pound, and that, I mean, was that was an obvious round for Izzy. So clearly, I thought, it was a pretty clear 2-1 at this point. Although I guess you could have, no, actually, no. I think that was kind of the only way to score it. Fourth round, both of them came out slow, but it was Izzy as expected. Started to push the pace a little bit more. I mean, we all expected that because we figured the size of Pereira was going to take a toll and he would slow down in the fourth and fifth rounds, giving Izzy the chance to get up on the cards. So that, no surprises there again. Izzy started to move towards the grappling a bit more, really just banking the control time at that point. Yeah. The rest of the round, I mean, nothing really happened. That was the slowest round by far. Round 4, pretty much nothing happening. But again, control time, grappling, it was a clear round for Izzy, I would say. So, like pretty much everybody else, again, like I said, I had it 3-1 going into the final round for the champ. And I don't really see any other way you could score that, really. Final round. Yeah, Pereira knew he needed a finish, obviously. And his corner was very much animated about that. And I mean, if you've seen the video, it is really straight out of a movie. Dana White said it himself. He actually put the headphones on to listen to what this guy was saying because he knew it was going to be he knew he was going to have to get Pereira fired up eventually. And that is exactly what he did. And it was just like Leon. We saw that in Edwards and Usman as well. The coach just told him straight up, this is how you be the world champion. You need a finish. And, you get that finish, world champion. That's it. It's as simple as that. You need a finish. And that's what he did. Came out there. Pereira came out really hard. And it got a little sketchy for Izzy right away, actually, but he did recover, started to work back into it. And then it wasn't quite just like Usman and Edwards, but the challenger came back. Pereira came back and he hit him big, started to really put it on him with these combos. Landed a couple of none of them really all super clean, but he was definitely wobbled. He was definitely hit pretty bad. I mean, if you look at the replay, yeah, it was getting pretty bad. Was it an early stoppage? I do think so. I do think it was early, but I even wrote down here in my notes, it wasn't like an egregious stoppage. Like, Pereira definitely had a pretty solid chance of actually full on knocking him out within the next 15 to 20 seconds after that. But, as a champ, and Izzy said that too, but I mean, we've heard this from a lot of people before where it's like, as a champ or even in any kind of title fight, give them the benefit of the doubt. Let them actually get finished 100% of the time. Or unless it's like blatantly obvious that, hey, this fight is done. But in this case, like let him go. Like, let him keep fighting. So, I mean, I do think it was a little early. And I do think that, you know, he probably could have gotten it. He probably wouldn't have been slept. And then he probably would have made it to the final bell and then would have won. I mean, clearly he was winning on the cards. And we know that too, actually, because, you know, they released the scorecards. So I do think it was a little early, and you know, it probably did affect the outcome of the fight, but you know, it was a bad look. Like I said, it wasn't an egregious stoppage. Like, it wasn't like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you know, it wasn't at that level where it's like, wow, that was bullshit. Like the Derek Lewis one that we're going to be talking about later. That was garbage. That's a garbage stoppage. But this one, you know, because you're talking about a champ, it's early. But if that had been anybody else, if that had been any other fight on the night except for those last three, we would have said, it's a fair stoppage, you know? Or we wouldn't have complained as hard about it. You know, some people really complained hard about this one. But yeah. Anyway, so that was it. That was, like I said, one of the best cards of the year so far. That will be in the running for card of the year. And I will be doing that in my bonuses, by the way, because I will be doing end of the year bonuses. I'll be doing bonuses, you know, all male bonuses, all female bonuses. And then, of course, like even just like best event, best card of the year. Then overall bonuses like, oh yeah, well, actually, yeah, no, what are some overall bonuses? I guess judges cards, worst robberies of the year. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But anyway, that is one of them where I should do that best card of the year. But anyway, enough of that. Oh, well, speaking of the bonuses, actually, KO of the night. Don't even need to say it. Pereira, of course. Sub of the night, Weili. That was a no-brainer for me too. Brawl of the night. Come on now. Had to be Poirier Chandler, of course. And then I figured it was only right to have two most valuable fighters on this one. And I mean, you know, because Pereira and Weili were the most valuable fighters in different ways. I mean, Weili, absolute savage. I mean, seriously, pound for pound, I would say she should be in the top 10 regardless of male female, and probably I would say third, maybe second even, on the female pound for pound. That is how good she is. It's just she kind of got unlucky with that, with both of the Rose ones, to be honest. So yeah, because I truly believe, and don't kill me for saying this, but I actually really do think that if Weili and Valentina fought, I think Weili wins it. Sorry, like, you know, I actually do, which is why I kind of rate her above on the pound for pound. I really do, because I do think that if Weili goes up, I think she's the double champ. I really do. And I think that could be next. I think that could be happening at some point. If not when Valentina's there, 100%. I would be shocked actually if Weili didn't go up and challenge 125, because she actually was a double champ in another promotion. She was a strawweight champ and a flyweight champ. So she has done it before. So I would be surprised if she didn't do that at some point. But anyway, so yeah, I had to go with Weili. And then Pereira, I mean, come on. You know, fifth round knockout, literally straight out of a movie, over the number 2 pound for pound fighter at the time. So I mean, you gotta give him a bonus. I mean, come on now. Yeah. So those were the bonuses. And I don't think there were any surprises there at all. All 5 of those bonuses completely warranted, completely expected. No surprises whatsoever. So yeah, that is it for UFC 281. Amazing, amazing card. And we will have a short break, of course, before we then come back and talk about this week's action, UFC Vegas 65. I will see ya right after this.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating
And we're back. So we went from UFC 281 to this. I mean, I'm not saying it's a terrible card, because actually I would say there's about 4 or 5 on this where I'm like, okay, I'm actually, that's kind of an exciting matchup and I like it. So it's definitely not one of the worst cards, but I mean, after we just saw that, is it going to be kind of a letdown? Probably. But yeah, anyway, so we'll start with the main card as it stands right now, because usually on Thursday or Friday they move something up to the main card, move some things around. So we don't know the final layout of anything yet, but as it stands right now, it opens with Jack Della Maddalena and Danny Roberts. I mean, I think actually this might be the biggest favorite of the night. It is. It is the biggest mismatch of the night, with Della Maddalena being wildly ahead at minus 550. And that's completely warranted. Yeah, I expect a first or second. I would be shocked if it got out of the first round. Um, First round KO, I would say, is pretty clearly what's going to be happening here. I mean, Della Maddalena already has 2, actually. Yeah, let me see here. What was it? Yeah, he's only had 2 UFC fights, and they were both first round finishes. And the last one was against Ramazan Emeev, who uh was in a split decision with Danny Roberts. So I mean, like Della Maddalena already got a first round KO over somebody who's essentially just as good as Roberts. And Roberts has been knocked out in the first round multiple times. So this is a no-brainer. Like first, maybe second round KO. Della Maddalena all day. All day. Minus 550 all day. That's a parlay right there. Oh yeah. And then of course we got my banner. There it is. And then over under, I mean, like I said, I'd be shocked actually if this got into the second round. So I'm going the under 1.5, because it is at 1.5 right now. Minus 128. I mean, considering what I just said about both of their histories, I would say that's pretty fair. Minus 128. I would do that. Put some money on that one. And that's a really good looking betting line too now. And then, like I said, parlay minus 550 for sure. All of the other fights, though, I should point out, are all within the minus 210 range. That's the highest one. The highest one outside there is minus 209. So really, all of these other fights are pretty close. So that that means that there's a lot of money on the table, but it also means a lot harder to get things right here. So this is gonna be a tough one to judge, I would say, which they are all fairly tough to judge. I will be, I mean, I'm always pretty open about this kind of thing, but yeah, this week especially, there's a lot of pretty close fights, and that includes the next one I'm going to be talking about, which doesn't even have an over under actually on Bet99 right now. Muslim Salikov, Andre Fialho. I will say I don't necessarily think it's as close as the odds are suggesting. I think it's really only that way because of their last fights, I guess. But I just don't see that it's really all that close. I mean, Salikov, his last fight was against Li Jingliang. I wasn't really all that impressed with him going into that matchup, which is why I even picked Li Jingliang to win that fight, which he was the underdog in that. But I straight up said, Li is way better than this guy. And he was. He got the second round finish. And never really looked all that good. I mean, he took Li down at one point. That was kind of his biggest moment. But other than that, I mean, Li was kind of picking him apart on the feet, and he was wobbling him quite a few times, and then he ended up getting a TKO finish. So, I don't really think Salikov is all that great. And on the other side, I mean, you've got Fialho, who has really some of the best striking in the division. He really does. It's just, I don't know what happened to Jake Matthews in that last fight, but I have never seen, and I mean, they said this so many times on the broadcast, Cormier especially. He was like, this doesn't even look like the same guy. Like, it really didn't. That did not look like Jake Matthews at all. It looked like, seriously, like one of the best boxers I've ever seen. Like, that was crazy. That was some of the craziest, crispest, most precise striking I've ever seen from anybody. I've never seen anything like it. And I've never seen Jake Matthews do that except for in that fight. And I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. I was like, what is happening? Because Fialho was like, he was really good too, as always. He's got that classic boxing style, incredible. But then Jake Matthews was like bobbing and weaving, like dodging a lot of it. And then not only that, but like just winging these punches, like crisp, like clean, straight to the jaw. I would say he straight up hit Fialho's jaw as hard as he could, like 20 times. Not even joking. And Fialho just ate it, by the way, for a while. But then after a while, he landed so many of those clean combos that Fialho just couldn't take it anymore. But I mean, it sounds like I'm saying, oh, Fialho's not that good at striking. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Fialho is an incredible striker. When I was watching, anybody was watching it, it was like, what is happening? Like, is Matthews like like an Olympic is he a boxing champion? What the hell's happening right now? It was crazy. I've never seen any striking like that. And I don't know if Jake Matthews can ever pull that off again. I don't know if that was just like all of the cards came together, everything came together on that one night for him. I don't know, but I don't know if he can ever pull off something like that again. That was crazy. But it works out well for us now, because now they're basically dead even on the odds, and Fialho is a ridiculous striker compared to Salikov. And there's no way, I really just don't think Salikov has anywhere near enough power to finish Fialho. Because like I said, Matthews straight up landed about 15 or 20 huge hooks straight to the jaw and did not finish Fialho until it just kept piling up and piling up. And Salikov is not that kind of guy. He is not the kind of guy that will be able to land that many on Fialho. It's just not happening. And you can tell that too, because like again, Fialho had 2 first round KOs right away, after losing to Pereira in his debut, which is crazy that he got Michel Pereira in his debut, which by the way, he was winning. He won one of those rounds too with his striking. It was the opening round. Just destroyed Pereira on the feet. Really, he ended up losing because it was actually really close. I was concerned because I definitely had Pereira, but man, was that fight close on the cards. I actually thought I was going to lose that one. It was that close. So, I mean, yeah, I just, Fialho should be able to get a KO here pretty easily, first or second round, because he's just on another level with the striking, and his power is unreal. Because he knocked down Pereira. He knocked Pereira into the fence. He hit him so hard. He is straight up, like he hit him so hard that he actually jumped back into the fence, bounced off the cage. That's how hard he hit him. So yeah, he's got the power to get a finish here. And again, unbelievable durability for how long he lasted with Jake Matthews, who put on the performance of his entire career. So yeah, Fialio by finish. That's just a long-winded way of saying, seriously, Fialio by finish is looking really, really good here. The betting line really just reflects what the results look like on paper. That's kind of all that reflects, because if you watch both of them fight, yeah, it really does look like a Fialio knockout for sure. So that's the way I'm going with it. The odds, like I said, pretty much dead even. -109 for Fialio, -113 for Salikov. So technically, Salikov is actually the favorite going into this. But yeah, no, going Fialio all day on this. By the way, there's almost a 10-year gap. Like, Fialio is, I think, 7 or 8 years younger than him too. So it's like, just all around, there's really not a whole lot going for Salikov here, which is why I'm not really sure why the odds are so close. Except for the fact that on paper, it kind of looked like that. That's all. But yeah, Fialio should win this. And the over under, over 1.5 is at -175 right now. But like I said, I mean, Fialio is known for walking straight forward and getting early finishes. So I would actually say an under 1.5 at this point is pretty reasonable to do. It's +136. I mean, why wouldn't you jump all over that when he's been getting first round KOs? He got 2 this year, 4 fights this year, by the way, and he's got 2 first round KOs. And Salikov just got knocked out by Lee. I mean, +136 seems like a pretty good deal to me. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for that matchup. Chase Sherman, Waldo Cortez Acosta. I have no idea what to expect in this one. I really don't. This one, I mean, anything could happen and anything could go in either direction. All I know is that this is going to be pretty much all on the feet, unless Sherman goes for a takedown or something, because Cortez Acosta is a boxer, so there's no way he's going to be taken down. That would be stupid for him to do that. It wouldn't make any sense. But there's one thing in this that has me running towards Sherman, and I literally never thought I would ever say that, because I firmly believe that Chase Sherman is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. And I don't even think it's really all that close. I would say Vanderaa is probably the worst now, and he's probably already cut. So Sherman might be the worst. But Cortez Acosta, like, none of this favors Cortez Acosta, and I'm actually a little bit confused as to why he's the favorite right now. Because Chase Sherman, although I really don't think he's good at all, he's only been knocked out by people who have been in the rankings, like top 10 rankings, basically. I think it was like Johnny Walker or something, and something like that. So that's the only time he's ever been knocked out. And that's it. He's never been knocked out otherwise. So it's kind of like, what you don't like, there's no way this boxer off the Contender Series who couldn't finish Vanderaa of all people, he's not going to get a knockout over Chase Sherman. I just don't think so. And the pace of Sherman, he never stops moving. He's actually kind of hard to hit. He's a harder guy to hit. So I don't really see where it's going. So even that alone, I'm already going towards Sherman, which again, never thought I would say. But what really pushes it over the edge for me is the fact that he fought 2 weeks ago. Like, when he fights on Saturday, he'll have fought 3 weeks ago. That was it. And he barely beat Vanderaa. Barely. He barely beat Jared Vanderaa in a full-on striking matchup, and that was 3 weeks ago. And to make it worse, Vanderaa absolutely obliterated the legs of Cortez Acosta. And I mean, people don't normally think about this, but listen to this for a second. 3 weeks ago, he had his legs chopped constantly for 15 minutes straight. I don't know how many leg kicks he landed, but it had to have been at least 15 or 20. They were pretty bad leg kicks. And he was struggling. He was struggling to move after that. So to me, think of it that way. If you get kicked in the legs like 20 times by a professional fighter uh in the same spot and you're actually wobbling around on your legs, try and then do the same thing 3 weeks later. Do you think he's fully recovered? Do you think his legs are fully recovered? I don't. I don't think so. And guess who also throws a lot of leg kicks? Sherman. So you tell me, you know, somebody who throws a lot of leg kicks against somebody who fought 3 weeks ago who just got obliterated by leg kicks. What is that going to do? To me, that means those leg kicks are going to be an absolute bitch right away for the first round. It's going to be horrible right away, those leg kicks. And Sherman's smart enough and he's a good enough striker, at least that good. You know, he's at least good enough to capitalize on that. I will give him that much credit. Like I said, I do think he's going to win this. So I am giving him enough credit. Even though I don't think he's good, I think he can win this one, is what I'm saying. But yeah, there's so many factors outside of the normal things that screams Sherman. Just absolutely screams Sherman. Not to mention, Sherman just knocked out Jared Vandera. Like, this boxer, Cortez Acosta, could not knock out Vandera. In fact, he never really even wobbled him that bad. Never did, like, never threatened to finish at all. And Sherman finished him in the 3rd round and did wobble him pretty bad a couple of times. So, you know, it's like, I just don't see his path to victory here. I really don't. I don't think he's going to get a finish. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Sherman's going to get a finish, but I do think he's going to get a pretty easy decision. I really do. Because then also, if you watched the fight against Vandera, again, 3 weeks ago, you can't learn that much in 3 weeks. You take the first week to recover, then you take, I mean, this week is all weight cutting and such. So that really literally just leaves a week and a half, maybe, that he had a chance to get any kind of a little bit better. I mean, how much better are you going to get in a week and a half? You know, like, just think of it like that even. How much better are you going to get in a week and a half? So to me, he's going to be exactly the same skill, exactly the same everything, except for maybe a different game plan in this one. And that's it. That's all that's going to change. So, you know, it just over and over, it's like, I don't see how this is going to get any better for him. Plus, he started to really slow down in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And Sherman does not slow down. So it's like, again, really favors Sherman. So to me, I would actually say he should be the favorite in this matchup. But guess what? He's not. He's a pretty big underdog, actually. He is the 2nd biggest underdog on the card. It actually, as I was talking about this, went in more. It's now minus 213 for Cortez Acosta instead of minus 209. He was the 2nd highest favorite before, which is crazy. Why would he, you know, I just don't understand. I genuinely don't understand what they're seeing here, except for the fact that it's Chase Sherman. You know, it seems like that's what it is. It's like, oh, Chase Sherman, he's going to lose. That's what people are seeing here. But no, I really think that this is probably the only matchup in the entire UFC right now that Sherman can win. And he's found it. So I think he can actually win this one. Plus 171. Plus 171 is where Sherman is at now. With all those factors going at him, you gotta put some money on this. Not, I mean, you know, maybe not a whole, you know, don't break the bank. Don't put like $1,000 on it. But listen, at plus 171, with all those tiny factors going in his favor, actually pretty significant factors, really, if you think about it, you could be, you know, this is like looking like a pretty good payday at that point. It really does. So that's the way I'm going with it. That was a long one to talk about. We'll speed it up now. And I mean, the next couple ones, there's not a whole lot to say. The co-main right now, Iwan Kutelaba, Kennedy Zachukwu. It is a little bit tough in this case, I would say. I mean, you're probably getting a finish. I would say that at the very least, you're probably getting a finish in this one. Oh, actually, okay, yeah. I need to go back in to the over-under of Cortez Acosta and Sherman, because this is actually really interesting now that I've noticed this too. Minus 150 for over 1.5. That is fascinating because Cortez Acosta has 2 decisions in a row. Actually, no, he has a decision with Vandera, and then Sherman hasn't been knocked out by anybody really outside the top 10. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago, I think, or 3, 4 years ago or something. I can't remember what it was. So there's no way I don't think this guy's going to get a knockout. I wouldn't think. So to me, it's pretty interesting that this is actually at 1.5 right now. So I would definitely run towards that minus 150 for over 1.5, because I think that is for sure the much better deal on this one. But anyway, yeah. So co-main event: Iwan Kutelaba, Kennedy Zachukwu. You're probably seeing a finish here. I gotta say, I think it's pretty clear which way you should be going here, and the odds are going in that favor as well, in that direction as well. And that would be Zachukwu. I mean, the guy's a monster. I mean, seriously, who is that big? Like, he to me is what Pereira looks like at middleweight. Zachukwu looks like at light heavyweight. He straight up looks like he's probably 250 pounds. He's like 6'6" or 6'7" or something stupid like that. 80-inch reach or something like that. Ridiculous too. 80 or 81-inch reach. The guy is an absolute building. Like, it's crazy how big this guy is. And Kutelaba, honestly, kind of maybe should be fighting at middleweight. He's not really all that big. He's not a big guy. So already that heavily favors Nchukwu, especially since E1 has been submitted twice in the first round of his last couple of fights, and he was knocked out a couple times in the first round by Ankalaev before that. So I mean, he's been finished 4 times in the first round of his last 5 fights. 4 times in the first round. So to me, I think that's the pretty clear way to go. You got to run straight at Zachukwu on this one. I mean, why would you pick Kutelaba in this at all? There's nothing going for him other than the fact that he's a maniac and he's going to go for something right away. So, I mean, could he with his pace end up winning a decision? Maybe, possibly. But the size, he can't grapple. You can't grapple with somebody that's legit like 6, 7 inches taller than you and way heavier. You just can't. And we saw that. We saw that with Pereira and Izzy. You just can't do it. It doesn't matter how good you are. When somebody's that big, if they have any kind of skill whatsoever, you're probably screwed. And that's just what's happening here. So Zachukwu is going to get a decision, or he's going to get an early finish. I think he's going to get an early finish. Surprisingly, he actually showed some pretty incredible submission skills in his last fight. He didn't get the submission win, but he locked it in a couple of times really, really deep. And like I said, Kutelaba, 2 first-round losses, 2 submissions in a row. And one of those was Johnny Walker, who is a striker. So, I mean, if anybody's going to get a first round, if there's ever a time that Zachukwu is going to get his first submission win, it's right here. It is right here, right now. So I think that's the pretty clear way to go. I mean, he should be able to just push him into the fence, take him down, and then get a submission first round. I really do think that's exactly how it's going to go. So Zachukwu, by finish, probably by submission, maybe knockout. Doesn't really get knockouts either, though. So I would actually imagine probably going to be a submission win. And that is at minus 175 right now for Zachukwu. So there is definitely still a lot of meat on the bone there. Minus 175. I think he'll probably be getting up to minus 250. I think that's actually probably pretty close to where it should be, is probably minus 200, 220, 250, somewhere around there. So I mean, while it's at minus 175, I would take advantage of it. Either way, I would say that is. Oh, did I put that on the? I already made my parlays basically for you guys for the article, and yeah, I did put Zichuku down there, so he's on the longer parlay, which I think is pretty fair. I'm not going to put him on the smaller parlay. I'm not going to put him on all the parlays because Cutelaba is a maniac. He could do something crazy. So I'm not going to do that. But especially with Zichuku losing split decisions sometimes. So I'm not going to do it. But, in this matchup specifically, I think he should at least be in one of the parlays for sure. Because this is, there's a lot of pretty huge factors. Well, huge literally and metaphorically in Zichuku. Over under though, over 1.5 is at minus 129. Under 1.5 is plus 100. Like I said, a lot of first round finishes here, a lot of first round losses for Cutelaba. And Zichuku locked in a really deep submission in the first round of his last fight. So to me, I actually think plus 100 for under 1.5. You got to take a chance on that. I think that's a pretty good way to go with this one. So that's where I'm going with that one. Main event, who knows? Like, seriously, at this point, with Lewis being so unpredictable, it's tough to say what's going to happen. But I will say he has never once made it to a 5th round. That is a fact. He has never once made it to the 5th. Actually, or did he finish somebody or get finished in the 5th round? It was definitely the 4th round. He's made it to the 4th round a few times. But he's definitely, I can confidently say this, he has never made it to the end of a 5-round fight. So, I mean, without a doubt, this is going to be a finish. This is definitely going to be a finish. No need to look, no need to even look at an over 4.5 decision win. No, don't even bother. Don't even bother putting any money on that. You're not going to win it. Throw that out the window. Now, who is going to get the finish? And I would say when you think of it through that lens, when you think who is going to get a finish here, it has to be Lewis. It has to be, because Spivak, he works his way in through grappling. That is how he gets his finishes. How do you start grappling? You have to walk forwards and go for a takedown. You can't do that against Lewis. Like, there is only really one person that I've seen recently that's been able to do that, and that's Cyril Gahn. And that's for a good reason, because he's incredible. And he's got the stand-up to back it up. But, can Spivak get a takedown against Lewis? I just don't think so. It's not his style. Like, I don't think he's going to get obliterated right away, but I do think that as Spivak tries to come in, Derek Lewis does, he's faster than people think, and he will hit you. He will hit you on the way in. It's just a matter of how are you going to handle getting hit like that, because he will hit you. No matter what, he will hit you. The only time I've ever seen him not really land much, and it's happened twice, it was the last fight, which I said I was going to talk about, which was complete bullshit. He never got a chance. The ref never let him get going. Literally barely got hit. Wasn't even dazed at all, and the ref ended the fight. So that's complete nonsense. Throw that fight out the window. Pretend it never happened. Seriously. So now you really got to think about what happened with Tai Tuivasa, what happened with Cyril Gahn, and what happened to people before that. And when you think of it like that, like I said, Lewis seems to be the obvious choice at that point. He really does, because he almost knocked out Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa was almost finished. He was almost gone. And then in that chaos, he managed to land one of his huge bombs to then knock out Derek Lewis. But if he wouldn't have landed that elbow, Derek Lewis would have probably won that fight because he was really laying it on him there, like really bad. They were both wobbling all over the place. So if Ty doesn't land that elbow, I don't know. We're probably looking at a different winner there. And Cyril Gahn, I mean, he's Cyril Gahn. He just doesn't really get hit. That's the difference. He's too smart to play that kind of game with Lewis. Whereas Spivak, he doesn't really have a choice. He has to play that game. He has to get in close to get his offense going. He has to, because that's his style. He has to get in that close. So for me, I think when you think of it like that, he's got 5 rounds to work with, and I don't think Spivak can get a finish. I don't think he can get a finish because really his only chance of getting a finish is a submission, and I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, it all seems to be pointing towards Derek Lewis on this one, which is amazing because he's actually a fairly significant underdog here. He really is. So, I mean, we've got a couple of big underdogs on this card that we're picking with, that we're going with. We've actually got a lot of underdogs that we're going with this time. We're going crazy with the underdogs this time. And yeah, I actually feel better about this one than I did with Pavlovich, because with Pavlovich, he had such a long reach that I was a little worried, which is why, going into that one, I was a little hesitant to pick Derek Lewis. But in this one, he doesn't have that reach advantage. He doesn't have the size reach advantage. He's not that crisp striker, that knockout artist that Pavlovich is. He's not. So that really only leaves grappling and then like a ground and pound TKO. Like that's how he wins his fights, is ground and pound. So I just don't see him landing that in this case. So for me, the only logical way to pick the winner then is it's got to be Lewis by KO. It's got to be. I don't know when it's going to happen. Might not be the first round because, he might push him into the fence and prevent a lot of damage there. But eventually, first round or second round or third round even, Lewis is going to land something, and that's going to be it. But I will say, first round, not crazy, because he finished 2 people like that recently, and they're very similar people too. Dawkins, he finished Dawkins like that because he started to run in and go for that kind of thing. And he finished somebody else in the first round too for the exact same reason. I can't remember who it was, but yeah. So I'm picking Derek Lewis on this. I think we've got a pretty good shot. Yeah, that's how I'm going with it. The over-under is at over-under 1.5 rounds. This could be one of the rare cases I go with the over for Lewis, but honestly, I'm still thinking the under. It is dead even though, so really it just depends how you see it personally. If you think Spivak can last halfway through the second round, or even if Lewis lasts he should be able to last in the second round, no problem. But yeah. So yeah, it is dead even. -117 for under 1.5. And that's the way I'm going with it. Over under 1.5. Over under 1.5. Over 1.5 is -109 right now. So like I said, pretty much dead even. I'm going with the under though, because I really do think Lewis is going to get that first round KO again. I really do. Another classic KO for the Black Beast. That's what I'm thinking. Then we got 3 parlays, 3 prelims so far. And it's only 3 because I figure one of these is going to be on the main card. And then, I can just maneuver it around for the article tomorrow if they switch it. So yeah, first I'm going Ricky Turcios and Kevin Natividad. Honestly, I think this is actually kind of a ridiculous mismatch that hasn't really been picked up by a lot of people, because on Tapology, it's not close. But these odds, they're pretty close. And I don't really see how this is going to be all that close. Turcios, he won tough, so we'll get that out of the way too. He won tough. He beat Brady Heastand, which is, we're going to be talking about Heastand. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to be talking about Heastand because he's in the earlier fights, which I'm not going to talk about. But Heastand isn't too bad. So yeah, split decision against Heastand. Turcios had in the finale of Tough. Then he lost his debut, but it was against somebody pretty good. It was against Ayman Zahabi. Was it Eamon or was it his brother? It was Zahabi, whatever. It was a Zahabi. I think. Oh, does he have a brother even? I can't remember. Anyway, it was against somebody with the last name Zahabi, I'm pretty sure. Um, and that made sense because Zahabi just dominated him with the wrestling. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's how it went anyway. Which is what Hestand was doing too, because it's not that Turcios is bad at wrestling. He's not. He's actually really good at getting back up. It's just that's their specialty. And Zahabi, especially, is a very, very good at keeping people down on the ground. But yeah, Turcios, relentless with the striking. Seriously, and I mean that I've never meant it more than this guy, because he seriously has no chill. Literally every second of the fight, walking forward, walking you down, getting as many strikes as possible, never gets tired, will do that for 3 rounds straight. And that's the problem for Natividad in this one, because he is the opposite. He has been knocked out in the first. I think he got finished in the first round last time. And he's struggled a little bit recently with strikers. So seems like a no-brainer. You go with the relentless striker or the guy that's been getting finished by strikers like that. You go with the relentless striker. By the way, even if Natividad does kind of land a couple of things, Turcios might be one of the most durable people I've ever seen, because Hestand hit him with quite a few things really, and it didn't even look like it phased him at all. He didn't slow down, didn't get wobbled, didn't get hurt at all. He literally just kept going and just kept fighting through it like nothing happened. So I mean, the guy's an animal. I mean, seriously. So yeah, I think you got to go finish for Turcios here, because yeah, that striking way too much. That striking is going to be way too much for Natividad. He won't be able to handle it. He'll probably get knocked out, and also Turcios almost knocked out Hestand a couple of times, especially in the 3rd round, I believe it was, because I just watched it again a couple days ago. And yeah, he almost got a knockout in the 3rd round. In the 3rd round, he almost got a knockout. He wobbled him bad, knocked him down. So even in the 3rd round, he can still get a finish. So that's why I'm going all day on Turcios. Did I put him in the parlay? I did. I put him in both of the parlays that I show you guys, for that exact reason. He's just an absolute animal, and Natividad is not the kind of fighter that can keep up with that kind of thing. Yeah, the odds -167 for Turcios. Throwing that in the parlay. Like I said, not really a standard betting line for a parlay that I would go to. That's more so -550 for Della Maddalena. That's the kind of thing I would normally go for. But in this case, -167. I mean, it just seems like a gift of a matchup for Turcios. So -167, incredible. And then +133 for Natividad. Over under is at 2.5 right now. Again, it makes sense on paper because Turcios has been in 2 decisions in a row. But if you look before that, he's got a lot of finishes by knockout. And like I said, if you watch the fight against Hestand, he did almost get a knockout a couple of times. And Natividad has been finished. So for me, the under 2.5 is for sure the way to go. And it's at +162 right now. There's a lot of money to be made on +162 for under 2.5 for Turcios there. Looking pretty good. That's all I got to say. Looking real good on the betting lines there. So there's a lot of money for that in that matchup alone. That's the other reason why I put it down. The next one I wanted to talk about, Jennifer Maia and Marina Moroz. And this is another weird betting line to me because I think they've got it completely backwards. And I just don't see what they're seeing at all. They've got Marina Moroz as a pretty sizable favorite against Jennifer Maia, when Moroz has only fought 3 times since 2019, including 2019, I should say. Since 2018, I should say. She's only had 3 fights, and they weren't even over anybody that good. Yeah, she got a finish in there, or maybe even 2 finishes. I can't remember. but they weren't over anybody necessarily that great. And she hasn't really been fighting. She hasn't been active. On the other side, Jennifer Maia has been taking on all of the top 5 contenders, almost all the top 5 contenders. I wrote down here 3 of the top 4 contenders in the division. Fiorot, that was her last fight, which she did pretty well. Chookagian, she lost to her twice, so she fought her again and lost that one. Also pretty close. And Shevchenko. Those are her last 4 fights. She went 1-3, and she got a win over somebody in there. I didn't write down who that was. But yeah, 1-3 record in her last 4, but those 3 losses were to 3 of the top 4 people in the division. And she made it to a decision with all 5 of them, with all 3 of them, including the 5th, obviously the 5-round decision to Shevchenko. So for me, it's like, like, how do you see that any other way? Like, she's fighting the best people in the division and making it close. She lost, but she made it close for all of them. And on the other side, you've got somebody who's barely been fighting and has only been fighting lower people that aren't even ranked. So it's like, and they're basically the same age. There's only a 3-year gap, I think. I think Maia's like 3 years older. So for me, even on paper, it's like, you got to go with Maia all day on this. I mean, she's fighting the best people. She's fighting the best people in the division and giving them a good fight. Why would you not be picking her? And then to add on top of that, if you actually watch the tape too, Maia is clearly better. I mean, she doesn't slow down. She fought 5 rounds with Shevchenko, and that should give it away right away. But yeah, she doesn't slow down. She's got the pace. She's got grappling and striking. Not insane at both, but definitely pretty good, pretty competitive, obviously. I mean, by the way, Fiorot, massive. She probably weighed an extra 10 pounds on top of Maia, and she still did pretty well, actually, I would say, against Fiorot, to the point where it actually made me doubt how good Fiorot was, because I doubted how good Maia was, and then that made me kind of discredit Fiorot a little bit. But then I realized, oh, it's not that Fiorot isn't that good. It's actually that Maia is way better than people think. So that's why for this one, I've got to go with Jennifer Maia. I got to go with Maia on this one, by decision still, of course. But you got to go with Maia on this one. There's so much more going in her direction. So much more. She's got all the experience in the world, and she just seems like an overall better fighter, especially with the cardio. So for me, plus 150 for Maia, you got to put some money on that one. I'm definitely going with Maia on this one. Moreau's minus 186. And I would have thought it would have at least been a lot closer than that, like minus 130 and plus 110 or plus 120, something like that. That's what I would have expected. I definitely wasn't expecting almost minus 200 favorite by the end of the week too. That's got to be inflating up to minus 200. Yeah, so that's how I've got that one. Over under, I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's obviously going over 2.5, I would say. Unless Moreau's could get a finish. So you actually could put money on the under at plus 266, by the way. That's crazy number. That's a crazy number to have, plus 266. For an over-under, you never see things that high. So I would actually even balance it out. I would say put some money on the under 2.5 for plus 266, and then put some money on Maia too, because that's probably how it's going to work out. Moreau's is either going to get a finish somehow, or Maia's going to win the decision. But I really do see a decision coming, but it's not out of the question. And at plus 266, that's a crazy number. Like, that is wild. You never see numbers like that in over-unders. So, yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. Anyway, last one of the night now. I've got another underdog. Another one. I don't normally go for this many underdogs, but seriously, the underdogs are looking great this week. They really are. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, and I honestly don't even know why he's the underdog here. I really don't. Plus 136 right now, the underdog. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I think he's honestly one of the most frustrating fighters in my mind, because you can see the skill, you see the raw talent, the skill, everything. He's got everything. He's got the cardio, he's got the striking, he's got the grappling, he's got everything, but he can't win a fight. He can't win a fight, and I don't know why. Every single fight he watches, I'm like, okay, he should be able to win this one pretty easily. And then he lost in a split decision to Jeff Molina last time when it seemed like he was going to win. Then he got knocked out by Manel Kopp out of nowhere when he was winning. He was beating Manel Kopp, and then he got knocked out of nowhere. That's another, like, it's like, oh my God, you're getting robbed left and right here. This time, I think he can finally get it going. I think he'll finally get a win this time. It blows my mind that he hasn't been winning fights. Oh, and he also lost to Amir Albazi too, which again makes sense. Top 15. Both of those guys are in the top 15. Manel Kopp, Amir Albazi. So, I mean, he already has that top 15 experience. He's got all the skill on this. It just screams Zhumagulov that he's going to win this one. He has to. He's got to win this one, people. He's got to win it. I know I'm a fan and maybe I sound biased, but seriously, he has so much skill. He's just been getting wildly unlucky in his fights. That's it. That's all it is, except for Albazi. Albazi probably finessed him on the ground, so I don't doubt that. That was clearly a pretty fair win. But Jeff, fuck, like the other ones, it's like, oh my God. Anyway, so you've got all that experience, that top 15, Manel Kopp, Amir Albazi, Jeff Molina even is also very, very good. And then you've got Johnson on the other side, who was dominated by Mokaev. And I mean, yeah, I get it. Mokaev, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. You know, obviously give that credit where it's due. But Johnson didn't have any output at all. Like literally no offense whatsoever over the span of 15 minutes. And they're giving him the edge in this matchup. It's like, what? Like, seriously, like that's crazy. That is crazy to give somebody the betting, the edge in the betting in the odds when they had pretty much no offense in their only UFC fight. And they're going against somebody who had a split decision against Jeff Molina, decision loss to Albazi, and then a freak kind of knockout to Manel Kopp after he was beating him. So it's like, it just doesn't add up in this case. Like, everything is screaming towards Zhumagulov. That being said, I mean, Johnson clearly has grappling ability, considering the fact that he shut down the takedowns of Mokaev pretty regularly. But does that translate to winning a fight against Zhalgas Zhumagulov? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think he's going to get a finish, but I would say he's going to win a decision fairly easy. I mean, not fairly easily even, but like, you know, a close one like he did with Jeff Molina, but this time he's going to win. I just have to imagine that he's going to edge ahead pretty easily. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, and like I said, pretty warranted that I'm thinking that. I don't really see why, like, Johnson hasn't done anything to prove that he can hang with somebody who probably should be in the top 15. Because I really do still think, even after all of this, that Zhumagulov should probably be ranked 15 or like maybe, you know, 17, 18, somewhere in the top 20 for sure. So yeah. Plus 136 for Zhumagulov. That's where I'm going. Minus 167 for Johnson. You know, it's just weird. And then the over-under is at 2.5, which makes sense. I'm going decision 2. So yeah, that makes sense. Minus 240 for over 2.5. That's what it's at right now, which again, makes a lot of sense. The under is at plus 183. But yeah, that is it for the picks. And I will quickly give my parlays and then I can have dinner because I am starving. So first one, Tercios for sure. Oh, actually, yeah, we'll start at the start of the card. By the way, oh yeah, here we go. Natalia Silva. That's her name, right? I know it's Silva, but it cuts off the first part of the name. Natalia Silva, I'm pretty sure that's her first name. Minus 172. I'm throwing that in the parlay all day because seriously, she's really good. And Teresa Bleja, she's good, but couldn't even get the contract on the contenders. Or she did end up getting the contender series contract, I guess, but didn't really look all that good. I mean, she was getting controlled on the ground. Well, actually, it was fairly even on the ground. I did rewatch it again, and I'm trying to remember what I saw. Yeah, it was definitely the ground that convinced me. Oh yeah, because Silva beat I think was it Jasmine Jasdovikius? I can't remember. Natalia Silva beat somebody very, very good in her debut by doing that, by controlling her on the ground and like really like basically dominating her opponent. Actually, I think it was even on the feet too. I can't remember. There we go. My bad. I unplugged it somehow. I don't know how I did that. Anyway, um yeah. I don't even know why I'm getting into this. All I'm saying is Natalia Silva is the clear choice. I'm putting her in the parlay minus 172. Then we got Tercios minus 167. That's a good parlay person. Nobody. Della Maddalena minus 550. I mean, that should really be in pretty much every single parlay you have because I don't think there's any way Roberts is going to win this fight. Maddalena is just way too good of a striker to, yeah, no, he's going to get knocked out right away. And then we got Zichukwu to close it out. I guess that's it because all the other ones are like, they're all, well, most of the other ones I've picked are underdogs, and I'm not confident enough on the underdogs to throw them in the parlays, in a bunch of parlays at least. So yeah, the main ones I said, like the main parlays I'm saying, like I said, it would be Zichukwu minus 175, Maddalena, minus 550. That's a good one. And then Tercios and Silva. Yeah. And that's what we got. That's all for tonight. I'll take the banner down. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Oops, I almost pulled it out again. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Oh yeah, the standard spiel on the outro. Area 51 down below. They got all the other sports for you. I'm the MMA guy, of course. And all my socials, so the socials are below in the below Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of fun stuff. And yeah, we'll be back next week and we'll be talking about, I think they're going to Florida. I can't remember where it was. They're going somewhere. They're traveling somewhere next Saturday, I think. I think it was, unless it was 2 Saturdays from now, but I'm pretty sure it was next Saturday. So yeah, looking good. And I'm excited to watch it, especially the main event. I really want to see Derek Lewis get back in there and get another KO. I hope he gets it, not even just for the sake of betting, but because I'm a fan too. I want to see it happen. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be an exciting night. More exciting than it looks on paper, that is for sure. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.